Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be playing the third part of Wild Arms V, the Veeth Vanguard. And we'll be covering up until we accept our quest to go to Mithysmere, but we don't actually leave to go to Mithysmere yet. But before we get to all of that, how was everyone's week?
So my week at work was really hard, and I don't do anything except my job because after my job I'm too tired to do anything. And then I had to go to work this morning, even though it's a Monday through Friday job. I had to go and spend half a day at work on weekend, which annoyed me. But I can't even be mad about that because I'm also broke.
Yeah.
So I guess I should be happy about that. That's my week.
That stinks. You know what else stinks?
What stinks?
Seasons 1 of 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation, not counting Measure of a Man, which is undoubtedly one of the best episodes of all time of Star Trek The Next Generation. But that is a bright spot in the middle of two really bad seasons. So the first season's poor quality revolves around the character of Tasha Yar. She's just not very interesting. She takes up a lot of space that the interesting characters could have used. It's not that great. The second season, there was a noted sexist running the show, and he fired Gates McFadden from playing Beverly Crusher because she told him, "Hey, you're kind of sexist, and you should stop that." So he's running the show, and he replaced her with a literal Bones, but with the numbers filed off. But with how much more progressive Next Generation is versus the original series, a Bones type character just seems super racist and problematic all the time, and it's really frustrating, and I hate it. And I can't wait till season 3 when it actually gets really, really good again.
I look forward to getting there too, because season 2 really sucks. Honestly, season 2 sucks because of that character and just like not a lot of good quality episodes. Mm-hmm. Season 1 though has a string early on of just some of the worst Star Trek in any show. I think it is technically possible for the series to make a worse episode than Code of Honor, I guess, but God, that's a low watermark to beat, because that is one of the most racist pieces of television. It's so bad.
It's not even just racist, it's also sexist. And ironically, the lady that wrote it also wrote the same exact thing, but in Stargate SG-1, Season 1, Episode 4 as well. It's the exact same thing, exactly as bad. It is also the worst episode of Stargate that's ever been produced.
Oh my God.
And it's written by the exact same lady, which is just hilarious.
And then it's followed up by, not immediately, I don't think, but very soon after, by the episode is called Paradise. No, Paradise is the DS9 one. That really sucks. The one with the planet full of the blonde white people who love to get frisky, but if you step on the wrong grass, you get executed.
Yep.
Which is just, what were they? What?
Yeah.
Gene.
Yeah, season 1, I can understand being poor quality because behind the scenes there were like 6 different showrunners. Everybody was fired like week to week, and it wasn't until season 2 where they had a consistent showrunner. They just happened to hire the wrong guy, but then Berman became showrunner in season 3 and was showrunner for the rest of the 90s, and that's when all of it was good, when it was his shows. So. Which
is also unfortunate because Berman himself is another pretty terrible person, but at least this show is better under his control.
Yes. He's at least do as I say, not as I do sort of bad.
Yes.
Season 2 showrunner, I don't even know his name, but he can't even say the right things. But yeah, that was my week. I watched a lot of Star Trek.
Fun.
I went my Halloween costume, because this last week was Halloween. My Halloween costume was the great grandson of my Lasers and Feelings character from Bernard's Laser and Feelings campaign, because our Laser and Feelings campaign is set in the original series era, and they don't sell original series era Halloween costumes, despite Strange New Worlds being the good one that's on right now. So I just made an OC of my OC. And that was my my Halloween costume, and it was
fun.
It was a lot of fun. And the Halloween costume cost like, I think it cost like $40. I would almost pay $40 for how good of a quality all of the comm badge and the pips are. They're like solid brass and really, really nice. And so I have it on my hoodie because I'm that kind of nerd. So
I really would like that sounds good. I want a Lower Decks era Starfleet outfit.
Yeah, there's a really good one. We can share links later and stop talking about Star Trek on this podcast.
So you mentioned your Halloween. My Halloween happened to coincide with my weekly Masks game, which I was excited for. And then other Sam, who is not you, Sam, but the game professor Sam, who is one of my players in my podcast, couldn't make it because he had to take his nephew out trick-or-treating. So I didn't want to start a new arc because we're going to be starting a new character arc, and it feels wrong to do that missing one of the player characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a good time to be missing somebody. So we ended up just watching a bunch of horror movies. I watched 3 horror movies. I'd already seen 2 of them. But that said, I hadn't seen Trick or Treat. It was my first time watching Trick or Treat, which was definitely good. There's definitely a bit rough in spots. It was definitely made in, I think, like 2008-ish, 7-ish, sometime around then. You can kind of feel that. But it's still good anthology horror movie.
Nice.
My other thing I could talk about that happened this week, happened today. So 2 things happen on this particular day of the week when we record. I was recording, and there is a serialized web novel I read called Catalepsis, which is absolutely fantastic. Is queer cosmic horror urban fantasy. 100% recommend it to anyone listening. If that string of words does anything for you. I went to read it this morning after waking up. I say this morning, it was like 1 p.m. I went to go read it after waking up, and it's really good when it decides to go kind of cosmic horror-y. It's very good. This particular chapter took me 2 or 3 times longer than usual to read because the tension it evoked and the anxiety and dread that it built up inside of me made me physically nauseous. And it was like I kept reading like a little bit and having to switch to something else to like process for a second, because it was like it was a very mundane situation just written in a way that like the dread was so bad. And I mean that in the best way possible. 10 out of 10. Recommend Catalepsis, but fuck, that was bad. But yeah, that's been short summary of my week then.
Awesome. I think that's everything. So yeah, let's listen to some more of this fantastic soundtrack and then start talking about our plot. So when we last left our himbos, they had learned from Greg that Johnny Appleseed was in Gownan, Junon, which was right over there, so we could go and get it. That easy. Awesome. So we head on over and enter into Junon, where we can smell a crap load of apples. Greg tells us that Junon is a wine town, and they make apple wine for the Varuni, so the Varuni kind of leave them alone. So it's a pretty nice place to live, as good as you can get in Filgaea, where everything's a wilderness filled with monsters. Speaking of apples, hey Greg, what's Johnny Appleseed? Greg says, oh, that's just the name of the wine that they make here. Avril doesn't know if that's what she's remembering, so we decide to head into the winery to see if there's anything about it that jogs her memory. Greg doesn't join us. He says he only signed on to take us to Junon, and since we're here, he's out of here. When we get to the winery, Avril says she vaguely feels like she's been there before, but then again, everything on this journey has felt like she's vaguely been there before, so she doesn't know if this is the right Johnny Appleseed. Dean says that a smell this strong would definitely jog her memory, so this is probably not it, so we decide to just get out of there. Avril smiles, and Rebecca is like, why are you so happy? We hit a dead end in your journey. And Avril's like, well, this way I get to continue traveling with the two of you, because they're all gay for each other.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
You're then free to roam around the town, and when you make it up to the graveyard, you meet a man named Joseph who's leaving flowers on a grave. Avril asks, why would someone be doing that? And the man is like, oh, she must be a Varuni. And everyone's like, no, she just has amnesia. That's why she doesn't remember it. And so here the game finally tells the people who haven't been paying attention to the cutaways to literal spaceships that the Varuni are indeed from outer space, and they settled on Filgaia about 100 years ago, declared themselves leaders, and now they quote-unquote govern by making life living hell for the people who've lived there for hundreds, if not thousands of years, because they just decided that they could, and they had the funding from the United States and most of the Western world to do so. So now they treat Filgaia as an open-air prison and wantonly slaughter people for over 75 years, openly committing war crimes on national television and getting away with it. Free Palestine. Contact your representatives and demand an immediate ceasefire. Like, what the fuck?
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who immediately saw that. Because they are full-on settler colonialists.
Absolutely. So, in all seriousness, seek out Palestinian voices on social media, lift them up, reblog them. Don't let the propaganda machine get to you. And with that out of the way, back to our cowboy game. The man says that while the Varuni are bad, humans are even worse because his daughter and grandson were killed by a human. He vows to get vengeance on the man who killed them and then trots off, leaving us with no guidance on what to do. So I leave town, having already been in all of the buildings and all of the loading zones in this town. I leave town. I wander all over the world map that has a very high encounter rate. I walk everywhere. I get bored. I look up where all of the hidden items are to get a couple extra dragon fossils and some alternate costumes, and only find dead ends. And then I realize that you're supposed to go back into Johnny Appleseed for some reason and talk to one of the NPCs for a second time because now they have new dialogue.
Now you have to think like Dean. So remember when Dean was talking to Greg, and Greg said, you can't see through the mountains or whatever. And that triggered Dean to take action based on that. Well, Dean was trying to do that for you. So Dean was like, hey, sad guy, you should have a glass of Johnny Appleseed. That should have been enough.
Sure.
That should certainly have been enough to tell you to go back to Johnny Appleseed.
To a place where I've already talked to every single NPC and gotten the optional treasures hidden in there. I've completely checked that off of my list of things to do.
So I didn't hit as much of a roadblock as you did. I was too impatient, and after leaving town and walking around a little bit, just immediately went, hey, walkthrough, what am I supposed to be doing? And the walkthrough said, go back into there and talk to the mayor. And I go, who?
And the walkthrough said, Cowabunga.
Cowabunga. But anyway, you talk to the mayor.
Yeah, so the mayor's there, and he asks us a favor. He needs us to take a cask of wine up to the shrine in the northeast, and he gives us an amulet needed to open the door that turned me away earlier. We ask him why the wine is named Johnny Appleseed, since that's like someone's name. And he says that the man who founded the town was named John, and he was nicknamed Johnny Appleseed because he planted an apple tree in the area to help feed any future settlers that came by. And after the tree died, they built a shrine in its spot, and every year they bring some Johnny Appleseed wine to the shrine as an offering of thanks. So we trek on over to the shrine, and we use the amulet to open the door, which doesn't swing open, but just rather disappears when you use the amulet. We go inside and we set down the wine, but when we do, Avril says she feels like the structure itself will not accept her, and then suddenly klaxons start to blare, warning, warning, target's presence detected. The door rematerializes, locking the group in the room, and the amulet now has no effect. The door is really tough and unbreakable, so the team, after a small back and forth, decide to head inside. Just inside, we get some duplicators, which are small keys, and they're called duplicators in this game for some reason. And we also get our first arm cartridge. This one is a freeze ray, and it's used to freeze things in the dungeon to solve puzzles. The puzzles in this dungeon aren't very hard. Are in a lot of cases are the door is locked. You need to freeze a torch to open it. But there are a few like optional chests and pathways that require you to use a little more of your noggin, such as you have to freeze some boxes that explode so you could shoot other ones, and then freeze some water to get to some optional chests, etc. We're still pretty early in the game, so who knows if they'll get more advanced as we go along. But for now, we just kind of waltz our way through the dungeon, guns blasting, until we see a girl with a ribbon who has gotten super lost in this dungeon. She says she's looking for someone, and we are like, oh, well, come with us so that you don't get attacked by monsters.
We know someone.
She says that she knows how to fight, thank you very much, and she's in a hurry, so she must be on her way. We inform her that the front door is closed and locked and won't reopen again, so we're looking for a way out on the other side of the dungeon, and she's free to join us if she wants. She makes us promise to not be mean to her and introduces herself as Carol Anderson, another person with just a normal American name in this game. Dean introduces himself as Dean, Stark, and Rebecca says her full name like a normal person, and Avril says she's sure she has a last name, but she can't remember jack shit. Carol says that she thinks she's heard of Johnny Appleseed somewhere before, but she's not sure, and Avril's like, it's no big deal, just let me know if it ever comes to you. Carol runs over to join the party, but she trips and falls onto a mechanism, causing the floor to rise into the ceiling like an elevator. Dean uses his I do platforming in dungeons powers to jump up like 30 feet onto the platform before it disappears into the ceiling, where a big moth monster is waiting on them. So we have a 2-on-1 boss fight where we only have Dean and Carol to fight with us.
Luckily, the monster was not that hard.
No,
at least for me.
It is really easy, especially because my Dean had a heal badge on at this point, so he just stood on the poison hex, and when it was his turn, he healed the hex, and then on the next turn, he healed the party. And Carol's range is infinite because she has a rocket backpack that can shoot anywhere. So she just did that, and Dean sat there and healed everybody and tanked all the damage, and it was great. After the fight, Rebecca and Avril make it up using the same elevator we took, and Avril again says that Carol must be carrying a, quote, original medium, and we still don't know what that means, or why it seems to matter to Avril, or how she can tell. Carol comes with a thief badge, which means I will never, ever use it, because thieves in JRPGs always suck.
Oh, you can get some good shit in this game.
Yeah, and it does at least tell you what you can get. Like when you... Like the scan ability the scan ability is free and doesn't waste a turn, and it tells you what you can get from them. So it is marginally better than in Final Fantasy, where you just you only can get one item from the boss, and it's like a 1 in 255 chance to get the good one. So it's annoying and not worth ever using. But and this one does you get more experience as a thief, so that's cool. We eventually make it to a room directly above the room with the altar with the wine on it, where Avril bends over in agony at the strength of the rejection feeling that she was feeling earlier. She cries out, "Why must you exclude me? Please, don't reject me." Then in walk 2 humanoid figures wearing human armor, being human proportioned, looking indistinguishable from a human, and Carol shouts, "Watch out, monsters!" And we have a boss fight.
I don't see what the problem is there.
This boss fight is stupid easy if you are paying attention to how the game works at this point. So the bosses start out at far ends of like a Y-shaped arena, and there's a lay point in between them and the party. One of the lay points happens to be the same element as the fire boss, which he then steps on the first turn. Avril starts on the water lay point, so she uses blast to one-shot the fire boss. Rebecca has the dash passive ability, so she can walk anywhere on her turn. So she walks to the newly empty fire lay point, then uses Crush to demolish the water boss in an almost one shot, which Dean then kills on his next turn, wrapping up the boss in 1 round of initiative. It's pretty cool. I felt really smart figuring it out.
That's really cool. I don't know if I had the stuff equipped for that or what happened. I died to this boss about 10 times.
Oh, wow.
I had a bad time. I don't know what was happening.
I also got lost for like 2 or 3 hours, so maybe I'm like 3 levels higher than yours.
That's possible.
So what happened for
Because they did
me
one shot for me.
is that Avril and Rebecca started out on the water lay point, and I believe Dean had the first turn, so I moved Dean and shot the water guy. And then the fire guy stepped on the fire lay point, attacked the waterway point, and killed Avril and Rebecca in one shot.
Because he did 1,400 damage.
So I let Dean die and restarted the battle, and then I just moved Dean onto the fire lay point so that the fire guy couldn't get there, and I just cornered the fire guy and kept shooting him with Dean while the others took care of the water guy.
Yeah, I think
I feel like a dummy.
I think I got lucky because the fire guy attacked Dean and didn't attack the water lay point. If he would have, I think it would have gone much, much worse for me.
It would have, yes.
So yeah, after the fight, Avril says that the feeling of rejection has passed, so they decide to get out of there before it comes back. The next room has a pathway to the front, so Carol leaves the party to go find her companion, and we, as a group, decide to redouble our efforts to find out about Johnny Appleseed. Meanwhile, in a palace fine, we see Faradun reporting to Volsung. He says that both his team and the, quote, moderates are currently looking for Johnny Appleseed, but reports are that there is a team of humans looking for Johnny Appleseed, too. Volsung says...
Can I just say... We talked a little bit earlier about some similarities with these villains and some things in real life. Because of that, it bothers me to no end that apparently their primary antagonists in this world are called the moderates. Moderates don't oppose shit.
That's so funny.
I mean, we don't really know who the moderates are. There's some group that is not Volsung's group, is all we know.
Yeah, I think we don't even have a name for the captain yet. I think he's just the captain, and that's the only moderate that we've met. So
true, but the way that they talk, it seems like they're at odds and like the opposition that they expect or something like that. And I'm like, okay, well then don't fucking worry. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I think what will probably happen is they are moderates where they are in the middle and humans are on one side and Varuni are on the other. So the moderates are like, why can't we all get along? And Volsung's people are like, no, we should kill all humans. And so in that way, they're like, no, moderates are against us, and they move the whole thing towards the right. Anywho, yeah, so Volsung says that even if the humans locate Johnny Appleseed, doing so would only hasten their demise. He asks if the humans know about the, quote, TF system, but Faradun says that it's unlikely, but he'll investigate anyways.
I'll say no. As a human, I can confidently say the humans do not know about the TF system.
Yeah, no clue.
Especially not a second one, a sort of like a TF2.
Yeah. Volsung says to be sure to not let the moderates find Johnny Appleseed first, as they must protect it at all costs. They I noticed in my notes, they never used pronouns for Johnny Appleseed. They always just say Appleseed
Johnny
or Johnny Appleseed. And I did not notice it while watching the cutscene, but some of these sentences are ridiculous with the amount of times they say Johnny Appleseed to avoid using any pronouns to give us any hints. Volsung asks for Faradun if he thinks that what Volsung is doing is just mindless slaughter, and Faradun says no, what he's doing is vital to preserve what scant life they have left. If the moderates won't preserve their people, then they must. Back in Junon, our party shows up, and the townspeople are saying that they've seen him in the graveyard, and they can't believe that he would show his face around these parts again. We head over to the graveyard where we find Greg standing over the same grave as earlier. Joseph then walks into the graveyard, and Greg turns to meet him, and he's like, good to see you again, father. But Joseph ain't having it. He says, you're no son to me. You have no right to be here after what you did. Flashback to a cutscene where Joseph runs around a corner, and he sees his presumably sees his daughter and his grandson's corpses with Greg slumped next to them, holding his shotgun lightsaber, which is the murder weapon. Old Greg says, I guess young Greg says, not old Greg, because he's older now. But I meant old as in the past. Past
I
Greg
thought you were
says,
calling Joseph Old Greg because you forgot his name, and it was well, he called him father, even though it's a father-in-law thing, not a biological father thing. So it wouldn't even make sense to call him Old Greg. I thought that's where you were going with it.
No. Also, shout outs to old ass television with old Greg and all of that stuff. That I'm not gonna do any of the quotes. We're beyond that.
I was just gonna say, is it just me? But in this flashback, does young Greg look like a Kingdom Hearts character?
He absolutely does.
Young Greg looks like a regular Kingdom Hearts character in this flashback. In the regular game, he looks like a Kingdom Heart. He looks like if Sora went to Cowboy World.
That's basically what this game is. Sora goes to Cowboy World. Yeah, so in the flashback, Greg says, I know what it looks like, but it wasn't me. And Joseph in the flashback says, well, if someone else killed them, riddle me this. Were the shells not from that arm? Was it not your finger that pulled the trigger? Show me some evidence. Greg can't do anything but just swear that it wasn't him and that it was a man with a golem arm. Joseph is like, wild story. Do you have any proof? But Greg can't provide any. All he can do is swear revenge on the man who did it. He grabs the arm and he walks away.
And
totally normal thing to do.
I'm pretty sure I remember that Joseph saying something like, I want to believe you, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like you want to believe him.
I have notes that exact effect. He says multiple times, I really want to believe that you didn't do this. And I'm like, then, give him, I don't know, a week to come up with some evidence. Don't just be sitting there while his wife and child, their bodies are cooling on the ground and go, yeah, which evidence you didn't do this? Huh? You got any forensics? Huh?
I mean, I don't expect him to act perfectly logically, but also it was just sort of funny. It's like, there isn't really any evidence that Greg did anything.
No!
Mm-hmm. So, back in the present, Greg says that he wasn't ever planning on coming back, but he met an idiot fucking kid recently whose sheer anime willpower was impossible to ignore. So now he's trying to make amends, apologize, and fix some of the hurt that he's caused. Joseph is like, well, if you're back and you won't go, then I'll leave. Never talk to me again. And he storms out of the town. Greg notices our party, and Dean asks him if he really didn't do it. Greg swears that he didn't, and Dean says that he believes him. Greg says, whatever, and asks where we're headed now. Rebecca says that they were going to Lila Bell until someone so rudely blew the train up. And Greg says, well, in that case, meet me at the station, and I'll get you to Lila Bell. At the station, we have to find tickets, and Greg is like, I'll just steal them off of some rich alien fucks. But then suddenly Chuck shows up. Chuck is like, Greg, go ahead and commit a crime because it'll make it that much sweeter whenever I bring you to justice. Unless, of course, that's what Dean is doing right now, taking him to the Golem Hunters Guild to turn Greg in. Rebecca, quick on her feet, is like, exactly. That's what we're doing. We just can't get tickets since we're not officially hunters yet. Can you help us out? Chuck buys it hook, line, and sinker, and he gets tickets for the group and so that we can make it to Lila Bell.
Dean is so not. He just the fact that he has to tell a lie here is just
killing him.
He just can't take it.
Oh God, you're about to say this in the recap, so please go ahead. I won't say it here.
On the train, they come clean that they're actually friends with Greg and they're not here to turn him in. Dean says that he knows that Greg is a good guy since he saved Chuck and all. Greg is like, I did what now? Dean then recounts the sunset thing from his perspective, that Greg was giving him a hint to save Chuck, and Greg is like, well, technically I did say those words.
The fact that also what I was going to lead into was the fact that he's the one. Dean has to be like, I'm sorry, I can't lie anymore. I have to tell the truth. He's our friend, and we're not turning him in for the money. And Rebecca's like, you know what? I can't even be mad. We're on the train now, so who cares?
Who cares?
I'm just like, Rebecca, I love you.
What's he gonna do? Kick us off the train?
Yeah, that's already happened once this game. It can't happen again.
It'd be funny if every time they got on a train, they ended up falling off violently somehow.
I was honestly thinking that was going to be the case. I was so surprised that this train ride was uninterrupted.
So Chuck is like, even if Greg did save me, he's still a golem crusher. So I must ask, why are you a golem crusher? Greg says, revenge. That's all I'm living for, is to kill him. Flashback, and we see that the man with the golem arm was actually Kartikeya, the insane Varuni guy from all the sci-fi cutaways.
The Joker.
The Joker.
The Joker. It was the Joker.
I had the Joker in my notes, and then I took it out, and then Bernard put it back in.
It was the Joker. It was specifically Jared Leto's Joker.
Yes.
Oh, you're right. That's a horrible insult, but it's correct.
So we now see what happened back in the day from Greg's perspective. Greg's wife and son were fleeing from Kartikeya when Kartikeya shot them in the back, and they landed on Greg, bleeding on him to make it look like he was the one that did it. In the whole thing, Greg couldn't get a good look at him and only saw the golem arm as his only description for who he's looking for. So over the last 2 years, he really hasn't gotten far because he doesn't have that good of a lead.
And his entire plan is just, I'm going to keep blowing up golems till the Varuni get mad enough to send that exact guy after me.
Yeah, it's a great plan. Chuck's like, well, if you...
I was trying to remember. I was trying to be like, I don't really remember what Kartikeya's what his golem arm looks like. So I googled Wild Arms Kartikeya, and the second result is someone who has recreated Kartikeya in Spore.
What the hell?
It's really good. It's really impressive. You should Google Wild Arms Kartikeya.
No, I can't even spell his name. I'm not doing it.
I can only spell his name because of autocomplete.
They really did a good job, but that is insane.
Right? I haven't played Spore, but I've watched some videos of it, and it looks like it's a pretty difficult system to make a humanoid person with.
Mm-hmm. Especially with like all that detail on the face.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Kevin Cadence on DeviantArt. Congratulations. You did good. You made us laugh today. Anywho, Chuck is like, well, if you do get your revenge, will you give up golem crushing? And Greg is like, yeah. Chuck says, then you're just like me. I know what it's like to lose someone close to you. My story isn't as painful, but everyone I care for disappears. My parents, friends, all of them. So I understand what Greg is feeling. But I'm still a golem hunter, and I can't let golems be destroyed. So I'll only let you slide this once.
This Paladin storm-blessed motherfucker.
Yes. Chuck leaves and gives us 2 blank mediums since the monsters in this section of the world are pretty strong. Dean says that Chuck is his friend, and Dean would never disappear on his friends, and so he'll make Chuck that promise the next time that they meet.
Yes, Chuck is his friend. I wish there was a guy version of Gal Pals.
Yes.
Bosom buddy. They're bosom buddy.
They're bosom buddies. Greg thinks to himself about how much Dean reminds him of his son, and he wonders if his son would have grown up to be like Dean if he had survived. So he tells Dean that he's joining the party for good, and he won't blow up any golems while Dean is around. He just wants to help us find out about Johnny Appleseed. So we leave the station and we make it to Lila Bell, which is a huge-ass city. It has 2 loading zones, which is more than any city so far, and it has huge Jumbotron televisions and everything. Rebecca and Dean are super excited to be there, especially after a large street-side television has an advertisement for the Golem Hunters Guild featuring Nightburn himself. Dean is like, oh, okay, so we're going to the guild right away, right? And Greg is like, aren't we looking for Johnny Appleseed? Avril doesn't mind, so she lets us head on over to the Golem Hunters Guild. Once we get to the Golem Hunters Guild, Greg waits outside since, he's wanted for some 150,000 Gela. Inside, the receptionist informs Dean that to become a Golem Hunter, he must first undertake a test, since a lot of people want to be Golem Hunters because it's really cool, but it's actually really hard and dangerous, so they have a weed out quest that they assign to people before they get their license. For ours, they want us to eliminate the monsters that have taken up residence in Mithysmere, a town to the south of here. Dean says absolutely and tells the rest of the group their quest. Greg is like, Mithysmere, eh? It'll be interesting to see how you react when you get there. What does he mean? We'll see next time. But first, we're going to listen to some more Wild Arms 5 music and talk about our memorable moments. Cool. So, yeah, I really, really enjoy this game. I have a laundry list of mem moms from this time, so I want
Same here.
to go first.
Carol's animations in the voiced cutscenes are really good.
Mm-hmm.
She's really weird.
The animations are very good with her. I find, no offense to her voice actress, I find her voice acting a bit annoying, and I feel bad saying that, but this just isn't a character I think I'm gonna glom onto.
Yeah, her voice actress is Mona Marshall of Digimon and literally every other anime fan.
Well, there's a lot of Digimon voice actors in this particular dub.
Definitely so. But yeah, I love Carol a lot. Gameplay wise, she is the blank slate character where her attack and magic attack are equal. So you can kind of put her in anything, which is a cool concept, but that means everyone can do something better than her. So she's kind of not that fun to put in combat, but she can shoot anywhere, and that's really cool.
I was gonna say I like the can shoot anywhere thing. If only she didn't miss so often when she did it.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked. There's a scene near the beginning that you kind of touched on in the recap, but kind of also glanced over. The scene where they go to the graveyard and have specifically Dean has a conversation with Joseph. I actually was like weirdly touched by it. I've never liked Dean as much as I did in that scene where he talks to this grieving father and / grandfather and is talking about how to move past that grief and how like Dean isn't like really directly helping, but he's listening and just like I don't know, he's given that shonen protagonist spirit in a way that felt actually good and warm in a way that he doesn't always come off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it was just a really touching scene that actually made me like Dean a lot more. And it made me like Joseph up until the scene where he confronts Greg, at which point I went, oh, never mind.
Yeah. I really like that scene with Dean too, for the things that Dean was doing and the vibes that were there. But
yes,
getting fucking wasted to hide your sadness is a very bad.
Oh, it's so bad.
Do not do what Dean suggests.
He said a glass of wine.
He said a glass of Johnny Appleseed. Who knows how like that should be fine. It's one glass.
It's always just one glass.
Also, there's that you mentioned the whole bit where they get to the big city and you have the cutscene that's that first of all, that advertisement from Nightburn is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so silly. Oh, it reminds me like a 90s advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so silly and over the top. And it is helped by the fact that Nightburn's voice in the dub is Jameson Price, who the main things I always think of him and recognize him for is he's been a couple characters in Digimon series because again, so many Digimon actors in this. But he's Lord Genome from Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
Oh,
so
nice.
he got that big deep voice, very announcer voice.
I googled Jameson Price and it was just giving me the prices of Jameson Irish whiskey. I see it has an I in it now.
Yes, it's Jamieson Price technically, but I think it's pronounced Jameson.
Oh, he was Sojiro in Persona 5.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, very long list of credits and things. Also, though, with that whole scene beforehand, I really enjoy, because it's been mentioned multiple times that Rebecca has been interested in joining the circus. And at first I was like, well, yeah, this is a Wild West kind of world. Going out and joining a circus makes sense. And then we get to this almost modern day-esque city with the giant Jumbotron stuff. Nothing Wild West about this at all. And she's like, oh yeah, maybe if I get noticed by a town scout, I can get on TV, and then I can get from that to doing the circus. And I'm like, Rebecca, your priorities.
Yeah.
You think it goes TV actress and then circus? And then immediately it turns out, oh yeah, no, they've disbanded the circus. The circus doesn't even exist anymore. And it's just, and then it turns into a thing of like, well, yeah, because with the TV, they're able to the Baruni are able to control the media better. And it's like,
What?
oh, okay, we're doing that.
What dark truths? What were being spread by the circus? What did
I
the
don't know.
Varuni shut down the circus for spreading the truth of the world?
It was just a very silly, fun thing, and I feel bad for my girl Rebecca, but also, yeah. Also, there's just a lot of very fun. Of course, I'm gonna keep track of cute moments between her and Avril, and there's a specific one. I only took one screenshot of it, unfortunately, but there's a bit in the graveyard scene, the second graveyard scene, when they come back to having found Greg there, where like Avril rushes up and then is like says like, oh sorry, I just acted without thinking, and Rebecca's like, oh no, just do whatever your heart tells you. And I'm like, words said 2 seconds before a makeout session.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Speaking of great lines, there's one where right after you beat the moth boss,
Yes.
Rebecca runs up. She's like, Dean, are you okay? And Dean is like, yeah, thanks to Carol. And Carol's like, hey, you just said in the previous cutscene that it was thanks to both of us. And Dean's like, all right, we're both fine thanks to both of us. Because it was like the previous text box where she was like, no, you helped me and I helped you. It's both of us. And he was like, absolutely. Yeah, thanks to Carol. Then also later in the dungeon, when they have their obligatory here's the plot of the game so far to the new party member that I completely skipped over. Dean's like, yeah, she was in a golem arm that was as big as like from here, and then he runs to the other end of the dungeon. It's like all the way over here, and it's so good.
Like, Dean, you can't do that. What if you get in a random battle?
Right? He's ticking up our dungeon steps for no good reason.
Also,
you have to wait until we unlock turning off the encounters to do that.
I also I don't know. I liked Chuck a lot. Running into him in the train again, he is becoming one of my favorite characters. It's like him and Rebecca at this point. Like his look is great, but also just his camaraderie with the other characters is actually just really fun. And then that just wild dropping of like, oh yeah, no, everyone who I ever get close to just disappears. It's like, okay, man.
Another good line that I loved is when the definitely humans that we call monsters show up. They're like, target located, now entering elimination mode. Target will be eliminated. Dean says, so you're the ones hurting Avril. Eliminate this, and the battle starts. And it's so stupid, and I love it.
This game.
The final line one that I have is the memory bird in Lila Bell. When you talk to it, it says, sloth is a mysterious thing. I once had a girlfriend named Sloth, actually, but she left me for a bird named Chunk. Are you saving? I'm on the clock here, which is a very weird Goonies reference.
Oh, that's what it was. That didn't cross my mind. I was just like, man, all these birds say weird shit.
The birds say some really weird shit. And the best thing is, if you think of them as parrots, some person came by and said all of this to them. The last cool one that I forgot to mention last time is this game is riddled with cameos from other Wild Arms games. At the station last week, we could see Rudy from Wild Arms 1 and Cannon from Wild Arms 2 as just drifters with a capital D. They've done that a lot this game, and they've talked about drifters with a capital D, which is a specific kind of adventurer in the Wild Arms thing. They're called Dream Chasers in Wild Arms 1, but drifters ever since. And it hasn't come up in the plot, but every NPC is like, oh, since you guys are drifters with a capital D, could you help me out with this? So yeah, we see Wild Arms and Cannon. Rudy from Wild Arms.
We see the character Wild Arms from Wild Arms.
Yes, we see Rudy Wild Arms from Wild Arms 1 and Cannon Wild Arms 2 from Wild Arms 2. And then this week in Junon, we see Gallows from Wild Arms 3 and Yuli from Wild Arms 4. Then at the Lila Bell station, we can see Calamity Jane Maxwell from Wild Arms 1, technically kinda, and her butler McDullen. And then in Lila Bell proper, the receptionist is Marivelle Armitage from Wild Arms 2. And also Cecilia, one of the main characters from Wild Arms 1, is there. Though, bizarrely, she's not an alternate universe version of herself like everyone else is. She's a Varuni who has a terminal illness and just wants to see the sky again. And it's very, very weird that is a cameo from one of the main characters of the first game. It's bonkers. And then
I was wondering what was up with that NPC.
Yeah,
that is sort of sounds like we still don't know.
Yeah, that is not her plot. And at the end of the game, there's a side quest that involves most of these cameo characters, and she still has the same like relationship to these other people that she does in Wild Arms 1. It's just in this game she's a terminally ill Varuni, so why not? And then also the Twilight Venom moth boss that we fight has the same name as Wild Arms Twilight Venom, aka Wild Arms TV, aka Wild Arms the anime, which is cute. And then several of the bosses we fought so far are returning bosses from previous games. Just there as a little cameo. So although this game does not require anything from the previous games, it's a little treat if you have played all of them, which is really cool.
Jameson Price was also Ovan in .hack GU.
Yeah, he was.
And someone named Bane Bloodhoof in World of Warcraft, which I just love World of Warcraft names.
They're so good.
He was also Yukio Oikawa from Digimon Adventure 02, the guy who dice were rolled and he was randomly chosen to become kind of the main villain.
Mm-hmm. 02.
02. The show where they had, much like season 1 of Star Trek Next Generation, about 6 showrunners who could not decide what to do at any time.
My favorite one is there's a showrunner that's there for one episode, and the plot hooks that he puts in are the good ones that nobody else picks up on. Like they
that one guy, and that's the guy who that gave Tamers to.
Yeah, they eventually touch on it slightly in Digimon Adventure Tri some 20 fucking years later, just to make it mean anything. But then it's this whole crazy, like, bizarre episode about like Kari gets possessed by a Digimon from under the ocean that they just never bring up. Because why not?
No, it's specifically from like a dark ocean dimension, and it's a eldritch horror thing, and it's like, okay,
yeah, whatever. At least her boss fight in Digimon Adventure Tri was cool because of it. So 20 years later, we're winning, folks. But I'm going to go see the new 02 movie on Wednesday. So I'll report back next week on if it's any good.
Fun. I look forward to that. I have been so behind on Digimon media for a while. Meanwhile, one of my partners is just telling me like all of her experiences watching all the newer series and all these things. I'm like, yeah, Ghost Game sounds wild.
It's so good.
I wish I was able to sit down and watch anime without another person being there watching it with me. I really wish I could break out of that habit I've somehow gotten into.
Same. I I only watch about one episode of anime a day when I'm walking on the treadmill in the gym. That's the only time I can, because my ADHD, I want to multitask, but I don't speak Japanese, so I cannot multitask and watch anime that hasn't come out in America yet.
Yeah. So. Anyway, is that all of our memorable moments?
That's all that I have. Let me double check since I missed one from last week. But yeah, that's all that I got. Is that all you got, Bernard?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, that'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations help us cover the cost of running the show and making it better and better. If you set up a recurring monthly donation, you also get some extra benefits. If you donate $1 more a month, you get access to our bonus feed, as well as access to our polls to decide what game we play next on the main feed. If you donate $5 or more a month, we also shout out your name at the end of every episode, just like this. Shoutouts to Cerebral Wind, It's Clear Time, Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Florist, Kaldron, Freddy Rodriguez, AA Ron 524, and J Fro Prime. And then finally, if you love us so much, you donate $20 or more a month. You also get to make me say a sentence of your choosing, either to plug something or just to make me say certain words in a certain order. Shoutouts to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shoutouts to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, reviews for people like us, by people like us. Shoutouts to Vimke, who wants you to play Legend of Legaia on the PS1, and probably not the sequel on PS2, because I've heard it's bad. And then shoutouts to Carr, who is a dentist, so he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth. He says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.
Jameson Price, also in World of Warcraft, voiced Lord Jaraxxus, which is spelled with 2 X's.
Yeah, it is.